Hello, everyone. My name is Arsalan Khan. I am the Director of Technical Marketing. All right, so let's dive into the Graphiant Gateway Service. There's a few key points about this service that we're going to go through and talk in a little bit more detail about. So the first one is, how do we support private cloud connectivity? How do you leverage something such as Direct Connect, Express Route, Fast Connect? How do you get private connectivity into the cloud? And we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of using that kind of private connectivity. We'll also talk.
Could I ask you to clarify your language?
Sure.
In terms of private cloud, are we talking about into the public clouds, the
Private
AWS,
connectivity. Yes.
your private connectivity into a public cloud, not this is my private cloud.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that, pointing that out. Then we'll talk about any-to-any connectivity. So even from a cloud point of view, there's a pretty big sprawl that tends to happen when you have multiple cloud providers, you have multiple regions. How do you have any of your branches be able to talk to any of those cloud locations, plus the cloud locations be able to talk to each other? And then we'll talk about the kind of routing protocol support that we have in the gateways. The main idea being cloud networking doesn't necessarily have all the routing functionality that you need, so how do you work around those constraints? Before we dive into the solution itself, we'll talk briefly about the problems that exist in today's network, as well as the reason why you may want to solve this problem. So from an enterprise network requirement, you have workloads which are distributed across on-premises locations. They are distributed across different cloud providers. They are distributed across different regions. And you, from a network engineering team, need to be able to make sure all of these locations can talk to each other. If you look at the different models available, there's three main models that cloud service providers tend to offer to be able to connect into their public clouds. The first one is if you're using an SD-WAN appliance or an SD-WAN cloud edge. You're able to deploy them into the cloud environment. This comes with the same set of SD-WAN problems that you have elsewhere, which is if you're running a large-scale network, you have tunnel scale issues. If you start to look at performance, there's a lot that you will have to do in order to get the performance you may be looking for, 10 gigs. If you're going above 50 gig, 100 gig, it becomes fairly cumbersome to deploy. And then the operational overhead of running all of these falls on you. So if you're looking for redundancy, you spin up more edges. If you need more throughput, you spin up more edges. That's just a problem that comes onto your network team. There's also approaches where you don't use SD-WAN directly, but instead you use IPsec VPNs. You're using something like AWS Transit Gateway. In that case, you have to set up these kind of IPsec tunnels. It saves you from the overhead of worrying about, am I running edges in the cloud? Are they up? About redundancy. But what it still comes with are limitations around same tunnel scale problem, same kind of throughput problems. And then now you have to manage the tunnels going into the cloud itself. So are those IPsec tunnels up? Are they running? What the state of those is. Now the third model has picked up, is become more popular recently, and it's a much newer model compared to the other two, where the focus is how do you get private connectivity into these public clouds? How do I use Direct Connect or Express Route to be able to connect into my AWS or Azure environment? It comes with a lot of benefits. First of all, no tunnels. That is not a problem you have to deal with anymore. It also gives you throughput capabilities that don't exist in any of the other solutions. You can easily get multiple 10 gig ports. You can even get multiple 100 gig ports. And then when you start looking at cloud network costs, Azure even has a plan where they give you unlimited data if you sign up for a certain kind of service level. So there's various other options there to try and control your cost. If we explore what this private connectivity into the public cloud looks like, there's a lot of providers who offer this kind of service, but they're all layer 2 services. This means it's on you to make sure you get colo rack space, you get hardware, you're going to get a cross connect, you're going to go deploy it. There's going to be a lead time of 90 days to much longer than that. You have to maintain all of this that you've deployed And any new location where you bring up these connections, you have to go through the same process again. This can be fairly cumbersome. And then you have to figure out how to connect this to the rest of your layer 3 network. Now, whether you're using SD-WAN or MPLS, you also have to maintain this connectivity from these cloud locations over to your network. The Graphiant Gateway Service is focused on trying to solve this problem by offering you a layer 3 connection. What this means is we have gateway services deployed in various different locations that handle connectivity into the cloud. So that private connection that you're looking for, you can sign up for this as a service and say, in this region, I want to connect into my direct connect. You can subscribe for that through the portal. The whole process itself will take you under a day to spin it up in any region where we have presence. If you want to spin up another region, it takes you another day. All of this also connects into the Graphiant Network Edge Stateless Core service, where you don't have to worry about being able to connect these locations back to the rest of your network. So this is one comprehensive service that you can consume. In terms of locations, every location where we have a Graphiant Core POP, we also have the gateway service available. So if you're happy with the POP locations, you get a gateway with it. If you are not happy, like Ali said, pay us, we'll be there, we'll bring a gateway with us. Now, we talked a lot about any-to-any connectivity, and that same use case also applies to the cloud. Rather than having to deal with, I have multiple direct connects, I'm going to use a site link. If I have Azure, I need to use their premium SKU. If I have on-premises locations, I have to deal with something else. How do I segment my network in a way that only certain locations are connecting to some cloud locations to avoid tunnel scale? All of those problems go away by leveraging the same kind of any connectivity using our stateless core. In this case, we have private connectivity ourselves between the gateway and the stateless core, and then we have private connectivity into these public clouds. That is how we can that's how we can send jumbo frames across the network. So if you have two cloud providers, your private connectivity into us means we can now send jumbo frames across this network itself. Now, the other key piece here is the routing aspect of the gateway. So the gateway itself connects into your network, your Graphiant network, the same way as any other edge does, in terms of it has the routes from the rest of your network and can advertise routes back to the rest of your network. So anything coming from your cloud can be connected to your on-premises locations. Coming from on-premises can connect back into the cloud. For BGP, we have BGP running with the connection towards the cloud, and then we support all kinds of BGP capabilities that you may need, whether you're looking to do route aggregations, you're looking to apply routing policies, or you're looking for community support. Now, BGP community support exists in most clouds, but it's not the most intuitive way to use communities. So full routing capabilities exist on the gateway so that you can decide what you want to advertise between the gateway and your on-premises locations. Plus, most of these private connections into the public cloud don't support more than 100 prefixes. So if you're using V6, no one supports more than 100 prefixes. That's where route aggregation and other capabilities become very important. This describes what your network looks like with the different requirements that exist today. You have multiple regions, you have multiple cloud providers, you have a hybrid network topology. Rather than trying to solve all of this with different solutions for different pieces, how you're going to stitch them all together, the goal of the Graphiant service is how do we give you a fabric that connects everything together so you don't have to worry about the underlying connectivity itself and you control it using policies.
How are the teleworkers getting into the core?
So for teleworkers, it's mostly they're going to deploy a home office box. Using that, they can connect into the stateless core.
So they essentially become another, like out of
Exactly.
like a coronavirus.
Bringing it all back together.
Too soon. So they essentially become just another stick out of
Yes.
the core. Then, okay.
Just one distinction. Gateway is unique to customer. It's not multi-tenant and it's not part of the stateless core, right?
Is not part of the stateless core. You get a segment within the gateway. So it is multi-tenant, but you do have the ability to control what happens for your particular tenant.
Okay, but so in this diagram, when you show the gateway,
Mhm.
is it in the customer AWS and Azure tenant, or is it in
No.
the Graphiant tenant?
It's in Graphiant's POPs.
It's in the POP. Okay.
Yes.
One more question about the teleworkers. So we get the teleworkers into the stateless core and we get them to our data center. Do you have any customers that are trying to use this to get them out to other products, other cloud-based products? And maybe that diverges away from what Graphiant is really intended to do, and it's more getting your data across this network, but just other cloud-based things that are out there, products that you're using?
So that goes a little bit into our B2B service offering, where
Okay.
you can connect different enterprises together if you want to consume a service. And in that case, it doesn't matter whether it's a teleworker or even your application that needs to connect into a different enterprise to consume a service.
Okay.
I see that being like the discussion we had about SASE, how Graphiant's not trying to be a SASE provider, but customers still may want to be able to consume those services, so they can
Absolutely.
still do
Yeah.
that through
So
your solution.
cloud is one example. You can connect into a SASE provider instead,
Mhm.
right? The gateway is just to give you connectivity from your on-premises environment into someone else through our stateless core. So
Okay.
working with a SASE provider, even Azure released their own SASE offering. So you could consume that using this kind of setup.